Hello, hello, welcome Azure AI Connect Day 2. I'm your host Konstantinos, and I'm representing Global AI Athens, which is sponsored by Microsoft to make this event true. So yesterday was quite a day. It was flowing so seamlessly, and I'm optimistic that today it's going to be the same, hopefully. Uh, we are going to start with Katie and Samia with a very interesting session. I couldn't wait to hear what they have to say about security. So, AI for good, and the title is AI for good. I'm sorry, how to prevent cyber attacks using AI. That's a very interesting approach. And eventually, this was going to happen. So, let me bring Katie and Samia to the stage. Hello, hello. How are you?
Hello. Yes, good, thank you. How are
Welcome.
you?
I'm great, thank you. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Manchester in the UK today.
Okay, okay, that's great. Thank you for joining. It's an honor for us to have you here. So AI for good, right? Uh, is this something that is going to evolve over time? Are we going to see more and more that currently we don't know what we would look like in the future?
Yes, definitely. I think we're starting to see a lot more around AI that's actually being positively used. However, having said that, we're also seeing some quite malicious cyber attacks happening at the moment with the use of AI. So I think there's always a thing around being one step ahead, both from a regulatory compliance perspective and also from a technology perspective as well, to kind of prevent cyber attacks from happening.
True, true. So if you're ready with your session, I can add your content on the screen when you want. So just let me know. Is this
Yeah,
Katie's content?
yes. So is I sorry, I can't see Katie on the screen either.
She's she says has chosen to close the camera
Ah,
from what I
okay.
can see, and I will wait for your content to appear so I can share it with our audience
I don't think that she can hear anything. I think she's having trouble with the
with the
connection.
audio. Okay,
Yes.
okay, we can wait. That's not a problem. Let me play a short video, and then if nothing is fixed, we can wait. Or she can rejoin if she prefers. Are you able to communicate with her?
Yes. I'll
Okay.
ask her to rejoin.
Join us for Azure AI Connect, happening virtually from March 2 to March 6, 2026.
So we're back with Samia. I think Katie she's having an issue with her audio or her setup. So I'm going to play our. Oh, I can see she's trying to add some content on the stage. She's trying to share something. I think. No, she's failing. So I'm going to play the video of 1.5 minutes again. Maybe she can rejoin. I saw her. She was trying to share something, and now she's dropped off again.
Yeah, I don't think that
She was
she.
sharing correctly, and it went off.
Apologies about this.
No problem. Things happen. This is a live session, everybody, so things happen. She's
I
here.
think.
Let's get out here to the stage.
Oh, amazing.
Looks like she's having connectivity issues.
Yes, I think so. I think whilst we are waiting, I'm happy to share my screen as mindful of people's time as well.
Of
If
course,
it loads for me, um,
please
hopefully.
do. Hey, Katie, if you can hear us, welcome. Uh, I think you have some issues, but that's fine. You may try you with another browser. If you're on a Mac, try with Chrome. Okay,
Can
this
you
is your
see my
content,
screen?
Samia. Yes, of course, it's already shared.
Okay,
I will
brilliant.
be away, not away, I will be here, but I will remove myself from the screen. So you have the stage is yours, Samia. Welcome and thank you.
Brilliant. And yeah, hopefully Katie can try
Yes,
and join in.
yes, I will
Um,
keep my mind on Katie.
Thank you so much. So yeah, hello everybody. So yeah, I'm Samia Durrani, and I have been working as part of cybersecurity for many years now, across multiple different organizations, and primarily have always worked within consulting. So have also worked across many different industry sectors as well, in the consulting industry. Recently, I have been very much focused within the banking space, on mergers and acquisitions, within security. And interestingly enough, we are consistently always talking about how we can use AI in the security space to not only enhance our productivity, but also to protect our clients and colleagues and the people around us. So today I wanted to touch upon a couple of different interesting angles, around cybersecurity and how the landscape has evolved and changed, across AI, and how we can use AI for good essentially as well. Now, some of the things that I'm showing up on screen, always give a bit of an interesting reaction when they're shown on screen. But I guess I'd talk about a few kind of interesting stories that I've heard along the way, throughout my cybersecurity career. So these are very much non-AI related security, attacks that have happened. Some are, but some aren't as well, that I'm going to touch upon here, just to kind of show the transition, across time as well, and how fast it's kind of evolved, especially since after COVID as well, where we've seen a drastic change in terms of digital and security kind of transformation happen. Very recently, so only kind of a couple of years back, I got invited to go and speak at the NDC Software Engineering Conference in Oslo, with Katie as well. And we had the chance to have a really insightful talk by the CEO of Have I Been Pawned, which is shown here on the screen. And he was mentioning around how he was working very closely, with some agencies, around some recent cyber attacks that were happening, within his region. And one of them, which made everybody in the audience definitely chuckle, was around this website called Poop Senders. So essentially, what was happening was around the time of the political elections, some of the electoral candidates were sending really stinky gifts to people's houses. And unfortunately, they were not very secretive about this at all. They actually left a lot of PII data as part of this, and were very interestingly enough, put a lot of data around why they wanted to send these specific gifts to people's houses. So things around their political stances at the time, or not liking people for certain reasons, and also giving across some kind of personal information as well. And actually, this site got hacked into. So when this got hacked into, it kind of highlighted not only just a kind of funny-ish kind of attack happening, but also actually a more darker side. So actually highlighting some different political stances across people that hadn't actually outwardly come out with those stances, and also some kind of personal addresses and things like that could potentially have targeted people. So that was always an interesting one. I've then got in the corner here a picture of a very famous YouTuber. And if you are not aware of him, if you do have kids or you have young people in your family, then I'm sure they may be aware of him. But this is actually Mr. Beast. And the reason why I put up Mr. Beast is that he has recently also been targeted by a deepfake attack. So this just shows how cybersecurity, how cyber attacks can be used in a really negative way, and how AI can be used in a really negative way. And in this deepfake attack, what happened is essentially he released a Twitter statement saying, guess what, guys, click on this link, and it will give you some freebies like free iPhones, free different kind of tech tools. And he's very much kind of used to giving away different kind of big ticket items. And that's what his fan base is very much used to seeing. But what happened in this instance is that a deepfake was created of him that was then put up on Twitter and also TikTok, and other various platforms. And unfortunately, a lot of his younger audience did fall for this, as it really did look quite realistic, especially if you're clicking on something really fast, and kind of scrolling through something at a very short attention span rate. So just moving on, I guess we've also got a few instances around how cyber attacks have kind of grown in terms of their AI ability, particularly around the recent attack that happened using Claude, which was very sophisticated, a lot of people would say. And I'm not going to read it out, but just kind of showing on here, it kind of shows in terms of the different features in which the AI model were able to leverage as part of this attack, and very much the kind of self-learning agency kind of tooling model as part of this as well. Now, if we look at how AI can be used for good in these instances, what Claude was doing, which is very interesting, is starting to turn the narrative on its head. So actually, they've started to look at how they can use their tool for good in a cybersecurity instance, and also recently have released their own kind of security Claude tooling to basically help individuals and also organizations look at the threat landscape and vulnerability landscape with a lot more automation involved. And this essentially helps to support with leveraging lower costs in terms of not having so many analysts and senior management as part of this process, but also improving a lot of accuracy around data consumption as well. So making sure that those logs and tickets are very much up to date, that you're basically showing and reporting accuracy as well when it comes to cyber posture and positioning in the market with whatever your organization might be. And essentially, obviously, with the AI tooling, it can also continuously learn as well. So it's very much picking up masses of data and able to kind of use this continuously in multiple different use cases, which often, normally in a day-to-day world, if you're not using AI tools, can cause a lot of overhead and admin around storing PowerPoints and Excel sheets and making sure you have the single person of contact that has that information at hand. But this very much kind of makes it very much a accessible kind of industry and area that people can learn from with these tools. So yeah, again, just to point out in terms of some of the kind of high level points, I'm hoping Katie has joined the call by now. I don't know if she has yet.
I have, yeah. So I am here now.
That's great. But yeah, this kind of just covers around some of the high level points around using security for good. So yeah, very much looking at real-time monitoring, predictive capabilities, automating around incident response, and then accuracy, like I was mentioning before. But I've also put in here just with a nice little co-pilot search, so very much using AI as well for productivity use with this presentation. Just around what would AI say in terms of the cybersecurity tools out there that are using AI, and it kind of gives you a good little breakdown of some of the recommended tool sets there. And again, yeah, like I was speaking about before around behavioral AI models and how to look at the threat landscape, etc. So I'm going to hand over to Katie. I'm really happy that she's able to join finally because she is a superstar in giving all of the technical deep dive information. So yeah, I'm going to hand over.
Excellent. Thanks, Samir. I appreciate it. Apologies for my technical difficulties earlier on. It is one of those things, and at least we know, we're all human, apart from when we're using AI. So yeah, I'll go through a little bit more around securing your data using AI and how that will sort of how it bolsters your organization, or it bolsters your even in your personal life as well, and what you use AI for. So if we're looking at securing data and we're looking at information in general, so making sure that you have a data discovery across your estate can be really, really taxing and really, really difficult. So from my perspective, using AI to do that for you, or to help you to find out where your data is a really, really clever way of using AI to your benefit. It helps you to how do you manage something that you don't know exists, for example? How do you look for unstructured data within your organization? Is there a way that you can sort of have a way, almost it's like having a cheat code of being able to find your data and then classify it correctly. So using AI means that you can scan all of your structured and your unstructured data. You find out where it is, all those little nooks and crannies, anything that is that within your exam, sort of shadow IT, anything along those lines within the organization that has data can be scanned, and you can then pull hopefully a nice long list of data that you have within your organization. You're able to monitor your cloud and your SaaS and endpoint and on-prem environments. So keeping that monitoring up. So if data is moving, where's it moving to? Is there a way that we can plug those gaps to stop that from happening? So you don't want your sensitive information to be going anywhere it's not supposed to go. You can also detect regulated and high-risk content automatically. So you know what types of data you're dealing with. Like I've got here the sensitive data examples. Looking at your personally identifiable information, your financial records, health and special category data, things that sit within GDPR, for example, intellectual property rights and contractual and strategic information. You want to be able to know where that data is going, and using AI to be able to identify that and better protect it is a really, really clever way of using the technology. It can also give you a basis of what types of data you should be protecting and how to protect that to the best of your ability. It can give you ideas, or it can do this for you automatically. And taking that I suppose that load away from the people means that they're then concentrating on how to protect your business. So having tools that can automate that for you better helps to assist in their role, rather than making that a more difficult process, as most people worry with AI. So also having that visibility of your blind spots and knowing where the data could be leaking from, exfiltration, that sort of thing, that is a great way of using AI across all of your estate. Can you pop the next slide on for me, please, Samir? Excellent. So I've gone onto here to talk a little bit about classification and protection. Now, I don't like to have a lot of words on slides because I know that sometimes it can be difficult to take all of that in, but I'll talk to why I've done it this way. So when we're looking at AI, we don't want just to be able to find out what keywords are within your data. It moves past that. We want to make sure that you have a full awareness of your data context. So where teams within your organization use data, have the most sensitive data, for example. How is that data contextually understood across your organization? And can AI help you to document that and to better understand how data travels within the organization? Also, looking at reducing your false positives. So you don't want, so somebody sending some data out, for example, and AI is using a tool to find out where that data is going and why it is going to that specific place. So it might be that during that time, AI is looking at your data and saying, okay, this person sends this set of data on a regular basis. This is normal. This is how it's you're expecting to use data on a regular basis. Then that is a false positive, isn't it? You don't need to be alerted every time because of that. But it also gives you a basis for how you'd push forward to look at what really matters to you. So you want to be able to see what's actually negative about your data transport, not what's expected behavior. It also detects that hidden sensitive data. So if somebody sent something by mistake to somebody they shouldn't have, or they've sent something, or somebody's got access to something they shouldn't have access to, it can find that and it can detect it. It can let you know, so you can then put those guardrails around it, make sure that your organization is holding that data, protecting it to the best of your ability. So understanding the context and the intent of data. So as I was stating there before, you are looking and analysing that user behaviour patterns. You want to know what is expected of a certain role, for example. You might have certain roles in the organisation that do certain things, and you can analyse the behaviour patterns for that specific role. So if something happens, then that isn't supposed to happen. They're not supposed to be sending that type of data. They're not supposed to be looking at that type of data, and they certainly shouldn't be sending loads and loads of that data anywhere else. Then that will flag and say that's unusual. That shouldn't be happening. Why are they downloading gigabytes and gigabytes of data? That's not right. And in high risk scenarios, for example, say somebody's about to leave the organization. If someone's about to leave, that becomes a potential high risk scenario. You don't want that person to then be able to download all of their data and take it with them to another organization, or use that data in a negative way. So you want to be able to identify those high risk scenarios and put in guardrails and automatic guardrails to stop that from happening. And using AI, you can absolutely do that with the tooling that's available to you now. There's also applying automated labeling. So once you've got your data, you know where your data is, you know how it's being used within the organization, you can apply sensitivity labels to that data to state when it is personally identifiable information, it might have a really high confidentiality. You might have really sensitive information that's special category, and that will be strictly confidential data. You may want to label that specifically. And if you enforce those controls, you can then encrypt that data to a certain level based on that sensitivity label. So that can all be done using AI. You can also make sure that that protection stays with the file, so it's persistent. It travels with it. If you're sending something out via email, sending something out via Teams or via Google Meeting or anything along those lines, you can then make sure that that is still protected no matter where you send it and to any organization. That encryption stays with that documentation, and it means that you've then got those access controls built into the document itself. There's also the adaptive data loss prevention controls. So you can block, you can warn, you can justify certain actions. So it can be somebody's trying to send something externally, for example. You can use AI to understand what that data is, then you block that data from leaving the organization, or you can warn someone they're sending something externally, for example, or you can also ask for an administrator to approve for things to be sent based on AI in the background checking on your data. You can also have that proportional response to the threat level. So when I was talking about the roles earlier on, if it's a high risk role or a high risk scenario, like somebody leaving or someone changing role, you can respond to that threat level at a higher level based on the AI the AI data that you've got. You can respond to it based on the actual threat level that you're looking at. And it makes it a little bit easier. You can also adjust those policies based on that information. So it makes it easy to be, it's adjustable, and AI can do that for you too. Next slide, please, Sonia. Thank you. So what we're talking about here is it's a human factor, isn't it? It's a human layer to your data protection. So instead of blocking your productivity, which a lot of security professionals are always up against it, when people are saying, oh, well, security is a blocker to me, I can't actually achieve this because security is in the way. What AI is doing, it will then help you and with that blocking of that productivity. So you provide those just-in-time policy nudges. So if it's somebody's trying to send something and it says no, don't send that. You're sending it external. It's got this type of data in. Please don't do it. Something like that. That helps. It gives them that nudge. It makes people think. It helps them to understand how that real-time risk reduction is sort of in play with their day-to-day role. You've got those user education prompts. So as well as those nudges, you can also have, there's tools out there that will provide you with training that is dynamic training. It's happening all the time. It helps, something will pop up because it's been noticed that somebody has a lot of, they deal with a lot of sensitive information. So training can be aligned using AI to be specific to that person's role, that person's data types that they're dealing with day to day, or it can also be aligned to the journey that they're on in their career as well. So say they're an early career joiner, then they may need more training, and then down the line, as they've been there a little bit longer, they may just need a couple of little awareness pieces of education, which is helpful for your day-to-day security awareness, because security never sleeps, does it? You can also escalate when the risk thresholds are met. So something's happened, you can go, right, okay, administrator needs to get involved here. It can raise an incident for you. Incident management on a day-to-day basis can be assisted by AI. Now, I'm not saying that AI should run the entire incidents by itself. It should absolutely have a human interaction there, but AI can help people with that, and it can also help to better understand how your data is being used in the organization, and when it is an actual breach or when it is an actual incident, and it is just that false positive. You've also got the proportional enforcement. So if somebody's accidentally sent something externally once and it's a sensitive document, then the enforcement there might be, oh, okay, that has happened, so we don't necessarily need to act as if this is a major incident to the organization, but it can be aligned to the priority of the incident. If it's something that's a lot of data being exfiltrated to another organization, that then needs to be blocked straight away, and AI can determine that. It's really, really helpful in those sorts of situations. So the result there is you've got fewer accidental breaches because people understand what breaches are, they understand what data protection is, and they understand what the risk thresholds are, because you're using those education prompts and those just-in-time policy nudges. And it also gives you a stronger compliance posture, because you've got the likes of GDPR. NIS2 was a new one that's coming into play in lots of organisations in lots of countries now. ISO 27001 and SOC 2, you can become more compliant with them using your AI tools to your advantage and not to your detriment. Can you pop the next slide on for me, please, Sonia? Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit around insider risk management tooling. So there's a lot of insider risk management tooling out there. I am quite well aware of the Microsoft tooling, but I know there are other tools out there. So I certainly won't be. I try and be as agnostic as I possibly can with that. From an AI and insider risk management perspective, it is always about protecting your people and not policing them. Because as I say, if security becomes something that is held over people to say, oh, you must do this or else, that again, it doesn't build that relationship, and it's people will find ways to circumvent the controls that you're putting in place. So it's about protecting your people, making sure that the people in the organization are understanding the reasons behind this and how they can use their own knowledge to bolster the controls that are in place. So what AI does and what insider risk management in general does is to detect behavioral risk patterns. So yes, it detects the unusual file downloads we were talking about earlier on, but it will also detect data exfiltration signals. So if there is, yes, it might be that people are downloading things, a lot of data themselves, or there might be something that they've say they've been subject to a phishing attack, and they have accidentally let a threat actor onto their laptop. Then those data exfiltration signals will still be in play. So if a lot of data is disappearing off somebody's machine or somebody's OneDrive or Google Drive, then those signals will still be in play, and that will also help. It'll be this isn't normal behavior. We need to do something. We need to stop it, and that's how the blocking would work. There's obviously the policy violations as well. So if somebody shouldn't be doing something and it violates policy, then you can let them know, or there's an automated solution that will let them know in the background, because AI has found that this is not usual behavior for them. There's also privilege misuse. So for example, the best way of managing privilege is to have a just-in-time and just enough process. If people are doing things that they shouldn't be doing with an administrator account, then AI can be used to determine if that is the right level of privilege for that role, and if it isn't the right level of privilege, or if they're using their admin accounts for the wrong things, then it can identify that and it can feed back. You can also apply risk scoring. So when we talked about earlier on about it being proportional, risk scoring means that you can combine all the signals from multiple systems. So you can pull data from all over your organization and combine that to work out whether or not this is an actual risk, or whether or not it's quite a low risk. If it's a high risk, then you can proportionally apply policy or apply process to that. It can also then provide you with a way of escalating based on the severity. You can then use that from the incident perspective. At some point, you may find that you need to escalate that to being a major incident because there's lots of data disappearing, or it can be an early warning system for the likes of ransomware getting into the system, that sort of thing. But it can then be you're context aware of your risks, and then you're escalating based on what that severity actually is, not based on what you potentially think that it should be at the time. So you've got the backup, you've got the evidence to prove exactly what you're trying to do. You can also have the ethical and proportional controls. So you can have your privacy by design architecture. You can have your security by design architecture, all of that can be built and can be assisted with the AI technology you've got with insider risk. So you can also make sure that role-based case access is identified and managed by AI, or to better build the policies in the background. You might find that AI doesn't need to be the be-all and end-all within your organization. You might want to have an element of AI and then have people designing and implementing the solutions based on the data that you're getting from AI. There's lots of ways to do it. I don't think a full automation with AI fits every organization. It's not necessarily going to work for everybody. It doesn't need to be a one size fits all, because it's about your organization and what fits your strategy and your objectives within the organization itself. So there's also the built-in anonymization until that threshold's met. So you don't need to feed that information back to the administrators or other teams until that risk threshold is met. And making sure that anonymization is in place gives people that assurance that they're not going to be on some kind of a hunt for somebody who's doing something incorrectly. It's more about making sure that the people are protected during that time. And that is pretty much from an insider risk management perspective, the sort of, I suppose, the keynotes from that. But from an AI perspective, in what I do day to day, it's absolutely key to use it for the right reasons, and to make sure that it fits your organization specifically for your people. It shouldn't be something that is thrown in. You need a strategy behind it, like everything. And I'll pass back to Samia for some closing thoughts.
No, brilliant. Thanks, Katie. Yeah, I guess it'd be really good to hear, actually, Katie, in terms of like some of the real life examples, obviously anonymized, that we've kind of both kind of faced together or separately as well. And I'll start off with something that I experienced a couple of years back in a large acquisition, where there were very new team members kind of working together. They were kind of introducing themselves to each other, didn't quite understand the ways of working quite yet, because of the acquisition that was taking place. But actually what they decided to do was make sure that they wanted to bolster both organizations, their security posture, and make sure to check if there was any kind of vulnerabilities coming their way. So they did the classic pen testing approach. Now, what I found really interesting, and this was a couple of years ago, was that actually they found out that shortly after they'd done the pen testing, that they actually did experience a very small and minor breach on one of their websites. It happened to be a website that sold different types of pet customized accessories. Yeah, and I got pulled onto a call with one of their CISOs, who was very frantically hoping that this wasn't some serious attack. And after going through a couple of different options, we finally realized actually they'd forgotten to pay the pen tester. So I think the pen tester was just trying to kind of showcase haha, I still have credentials on me and I can still log in quite happily into your organization, and please do pay my paycheck. So always a funny one in that aspect. But I think now when I look back at that kind of example, I feel like with use cases around AI that you were just discussing there, Katie, I think some things like that would far less happen, because I think we would automatically be flagged in terms of not just from a pay kind of simple productivity perspective, but also from an AI perspective in terms of looking at who we've given credentials out to, and almost that generating of reports and that kind of role-based access perspective as well. But yeah, have you kind of seen anything similar that you can kind of talk to?
Yeah, so that I think from my perspective and the work that I do, there's lots of examples like that, and I think there's you're absolutely right. That role-based access is really, really key to everything that is done from an administrative perspective in the organisation. And I don't know if anybody else has ever been through this, but I know you have, Samir, and lots of organisations. Is the main issue that I find in lots of organisations is around joiners, movers, and leavers within the organisation, and that it also includes supplier accounts, guest accounts, that sort of element, and using AI to determine exactly what those roles need to be and how they need to be used within the organisation is really quite a good way of using it. I find when I've gone into different businesses who have a joiners and movers policy, a joiners, movers, and leavers policy, even they yes, it's all written down, the processes are there, but they don't mop up afterwards, so they don't check when access has been revoked at the end of the day. That is really, really important. Another element that I touched upon around AI in general. Yes, AI for good is fantastic, and what we want to be moving to. But excuse me, I can't remember how many LLMs are being spun up every day. What I am finding is that it's really hard to make sure that your organization is blocking the ones that aren't what you want. And really, you only want to be using your AI engine of choice. And if you've got people within the organization who are putting in corporate data or sensitive data into AI tools that aren't robust, or AI tools that are stealing your data, then that's a really big risk to the organization. But you can also use your current AI tool to find more AI tools that are being used within other organizations. So if you've got, so there's certain AI tools, and everybody will have seen this in various press, that there are AI tools that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And you don't want your corporate data to end up in those tools. So using a tool of choice, and so I've used a lot of Purview over the years, and using AI within that to determine what other AI tools you don't want to have access to, and blocking those automatically is really, really quite a fantastic way of using your specified AI tool. It will also mean that your data will not go anywhere that you don't want it to go, and it will be identified if it does. So any sensitive data that's going to somewhere that you don't want it to go, you can then you can make sure that's blocked at point, and it doesn't happen. It points to that user behavior as well, because you're always going to have, when you block something, you then find that people will ask for it, and you say, well, actually, no, you shouldn't have access to that. Please use this instead. And that gives you that education piece, which matches it. But I have had some wonderful real world examples of AI being used incorrectly, and then also being used to correct that incorrect behavior.
Yeah, brilliant. I think we've actually got a question in the chat. So thank you for asking this question. So I'll read it out. It says, in organizations with multiple legacy systems, how do you standardize behavioral logs so AI-based insider risk scoring remains reliable? I think this is a really interesting question. It's something that is often a challenge, I think, across a lot of organizations that we work with or have worked in before. And I think this kind of is a question that also stands alone outside of the AI question, right? So it's like, how do we make sure that we're making our data sets reliable and accurate as possible, so we're not actually spitting out risk scoring that might be not actually related back to the data sets. And I think it's really pivotal, the tooling that Katie, you were speaking about before, especially within the Microsoft space, but also wider than that, agnostically, that almost does the groundwork for you before you start to add layers of AI onto this, to make sure that it can look through some of those kind of data sets, I guess, because that's, I think, where you need to start from. It's almost working backwards. I always say AI is the doesn't have to be the be all and end all. It can almost be the nice to have at the end of something. It doesn't have to be the thing that you start with and finish with. I think we all always in cybersecurity have to get the basic principles correct before we start to add these layers of AI and automation onto things. But yeah, Katie, do you have a view? I know that you will have a great view on this, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. So I find and multiple legacy tech it's painful, isn't it? It's not easy to manage. Lots and lots of different legacy technological solutions. But what it is from these insider risk solutions have a learning period within your organization. So they are set up and they ingest lots of data for a period of time, and that will then determine what is expected behavior within the organization. So that's, you have to let it learn. And I think from an AI perspective, AI is only as good as the information that's fed into AI. So having that learning period of sort of 90 days plus is really, really good to as a strategy within the organization. Finding that the data, well, when it's finding that data, it's learning how your organization works and how from a risk tolerance perspective, how that should be managed as a general rule. Obviously, you're feeding information in policy. So you might say, okay, we don't want we don't want these roles to be assessed in the same level as these roles because these are our high risk roles. You might then, but you might also identify something in that learning period that you've thought, oh no, that's wrong, that should not be happening, and then you're then feeding that information back in so that AI can then come back with tools to manage that. But there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to legacy systems. Yes, you want them to be reliable, and you want the risk levels to be as reliable as possible. But there's different parameters on different systems, isn't there? You want different expected behavior on legacy systems than you do on systems that are sort of in active support within an organization. Legacy systems provide, you may want legacy systems, for example, to be segregated off. You might want them to be, they'll need a lot more compensating controls within the legacy system than you'll need from a SaaS system that's constantly updated. So it's about working out where your pain points are within your organization and pointing at AI to those areas to better understand how those need to be managed rather than so yeah, they're like your high risk systems, aren't they? So you may have they may want those systems to have more control than the SaaS systems and the like. So it is yes, that probably didn't answer the question fully, but it is to be reliable, you have to learn. You have to let AI learn the same way we learn, and once that learning has taken place, you'll have a better idea of how you can use AI within your organization, and also test it. You can test it. You can absolutely see if you run some tests and say, okay, I'm gonna download some test data and then see if that flags up, that sort of thing. You're able to test that and then you can determine if that reliability is there. If it's not, it might need a bit longer to learn.
Great. I really like that, Katie, of we need to think about AI, how it learns the same way how we learn. I guess that's the whole thing as well around AI for good. It's the same as how humans are for good in this instance around cybersecurity as well. Trying to do the best around security. There's another question here around how would you approach inspiring confidence to build AI tools for security improvements for skeptics, people that are afraid to even say AI? I think this is such a brilliant question as well. Thank you so much for asking, because I really do think that there are a lot of skeptics. I know I have friends and other people that I speak to as well that are very skeptical about AI. And you're right around, people being very apprehensive around even speaking around AI. And I think in terms of inspiring confidence around it, I would say it's easier said than done, but often we do get fed a lot of speculative, interesting information online. I mean, there's been an uptake in even like AI content that might not actually be completely accurate and might be causing a few different ideas around things that might not be completely accurate. So there's also an idea around making sure you're guiding people in the right way around finding the information that is A, tangibly to digest, but B, also kind of leads with empathy and understanding of actually these high level, could be scary concepts are actually broken down into more tangibly digested things. And I often start with things that, like, especially in the news that you see around some of the cyber attacks that might happen day to day, like even like things around there was a recent one around WhatsApp as an example, where people were sending messages asking urgently for money and pretending to be people's parents. Those are ideas that really are scary and they pull at heartstrings. So it's kind of inspiring the conversations around, okay, how do people work behind the scenes to do these type of attacks, and what can be the confidence around preventing those attacks from happening to yourself as well, and finding those spot signs around it. I think from a AI skeptic perspective, I think it's also highlighting where we're already using AI. I find it so fascinating because some people say, okay, AI is just around the corner. And I'm almost like, no, it's here. It's already been here for such a long time as well. So it's like, I guess we are going through a huge amount of change and transformation, at a vast speed as well, especially since COVID, like I mentioned before. And you're starting to see the fact that things like not even just AI, but things like quantum and crypto and things like that are all kind of full steam ahead, and we're already kind of immersed in that world. So it's more of a case of us trying to figure out how we actually consume and understand that world than not being part of it. So yeah, that's kind of my kind of take. Katie, do you have anything that you'd want to mention?
Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right, Sammy. And I think that from identifying the good use of AI is really good to bring people on that journey. So if we think of people could use AI in hospitals, for example, hospitals analyzing MRIs, X-rays, CT scans, that sort of thing. There's been some studies where they might see there's early detection of cancer, early detection of other like strokes and fractures. So I think I read somewhere, and please don't quote me on this because I don't think I have the reference, but somebody had I think there was a tumor that wasn't visible to the human eye, but it was found using AI. And they say, and I'm sure I saw something around a fracture as well. But it's quite interesting to see how that works. What I also found, and this is quite close to my heart, is that care homes are thinking about using AI to detect sort of falls and things in their residents. So if they, for example, if they wear a watch and they're using IoT, they might then be able to detect when somebody's fallen, when the heart rate's gone, if there's any specific deterioration. So there's elements of AI that can be used to pass that, and there's also personalized care planning, making sure that if you put all of a care plan in place for somebody with dementia, for example, making sure that they are not that they have the adequate care and what needs to be done for them. That shows how AI can be used for good in those types of organizations. Obviously, I work in IT, so it's very different for what I've from my perspective. But on a personal note, I absolutely will use AI for tracking my own health, tracking my family's health, making sure that that we make the right decisions from a monetary or from I've used AI recently to help me with decisions on whether or not I move house, for example, that sort of thing. It's, do I move? Do I renovate? What's the best way to do that? So explaining that to people and showing them what benefits AI has, that's how you get the skeptics on board, in my opinion.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. So, I know that we're coming up to the hour, and I know there's some really exciting speakers coming up for the rest of today and also the rest of the week, and have already been. So, yeah, it's been a great opportunity to speak to you all. Really appreciate people that have dialed in to listen to this live. And yeah, I want to say thank you on behalf of me and Katie to the Global AI Athens team. And appreciate it. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Samia and Katie. A very interesting session. I believe that your topic is going to be recycled, and we're going to see it again and again, because we live in the era that we're still navigating ourselves through this boom bloom of the technology of AI. So we need more people with your mindset to guide us and set the stage for future protection, future innovations that also provide a secure workspace through AI tools and building the correct processes for having a secure um, workspace. I really like the example in the beginning because this is actual live examples. These things happen, so it's not in the space of imagination. It's currently happening. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. It's been an honor to have you. Hopefully, we will see you in our any next event. Have a great one, and
Thank you very much.
have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Bye
Thank you.
You
bye.
too. Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
Katie. Bye, Saya. So that was a quite an interesting session, and I really liked the way that Samia and Katie approached the theme. Because, as I said, we're going to have to discuss again and again these elements, these artifacts, let me say, and probably we're going to see uh, new terms coming out of this technology that we need to adapt ourselves, that we need also to protect ourselves without also losing this innovation bloom that we have, this boom, or how can I say this evolution, this great evolution that we have. So we need to balance, and we need to be very careful on this. Yeah, things are happening right now. I believe you may have heard from a close person to yours, or something in the internet that has happened to many people because they were unaware of the dangers around AI and the tools that the bad actors use to perform their malicious intents. So I cannot see our next speaker here. I'm afraid he may not be here, so I will play our, the usual video, and if he appears, we're going to continue with the second session. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm Konstantinos, Azure AI Connect Day 2. Yeah, let's play our video. All right, welcome back, Azure AI Connect 2026. We had a little bit of an issue with our previous speaker, and I was afraid that our current speaker was also not be able to come, but we had some communications, and I believe he will be able to deliver. We have with us Olo. Let me pronounce this correctly. Give me a moment. It's not an easy name to pronounce, so I want to pronounce it correctly. Okay, the session is Rethinking Security and Compliance, the role of AI in Microsoft 365. As you know, these days dedicated most in security aspects of AI and, of course, the Microsoft ecosystem. So we have Olu Wasei, with us. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Let me bring him on the stage. And here he is. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hi, sorry for the mix-up. Yeah, I'm
Yeah, no
fine.
problem. Now you're here,
Yeah,
so that matters, right?
yes.
Okay, great. Where are you calling from?
From Lagos, Nigeria. That is in Africa. Can you hear me? I I can't hear you again, but if you can hear me,
So, I'm sorry. I believe you have a very interesting session to show
yep.
us. If you want to bring your screen on the share, I
Okay,
will I will bring it online for you.
okay. Uh,
Excellent. Perfect. All right. So everybody, Oluwase is with us, and the stage is yours, my friend. Welcome.
okay, okay. So, good afternoon and good evening, wherever you're calling from. If you can hear me, my name is Oluwaseyi Oluwawumiju. I'm all the way from Africa in Lagos, Nigeria. And we're talking about a significant role that we have been witnessing in development of technology. And one major yardstick we see is ability to have productivity solution. And that solution encompasses our M365, which is all on the software as a service on Microsoft's own cloud platform provision. So, what are we saying today? What are we going to look at today? Generally, this is me. I have a couple of years background in Microsoft solution and over several awards, including MVP. This is my seventh year, and as MCT, I've been going to 9 to 10 years, and I've been focused on AI recently in the past 5, 6 years. Then Azure and M365 as my basic. So I write technically also in some books, but lately I've not been writing. I think I need to improve that. So the goal of today, why are we here and why are you on my session? Um, Generally, we are looking at a strategic uh, point in terms of evolution of technology and trying to drill it down to the advantage we have with M365. Now, the first thing we need to look at is to look at the involvement, the evolution. How, where, and how do we get to this point where threats become a reason of our discussion, especially when it comes to sophisticated cyber attack. Especially, it has been quite challenging when it comes to traditional security measures that have been there over years, over decades, in fact. And M365, which generally is a build up that is built on most of the productive solution we have. Example is our Word Office, which generally known all over the world as long as you have Microsoft solution. Then you have things like M365, which is more of the software as a service, where you can have your email, your collaborative solution like Team, things like Planner, things like Exchange, and all these things are coming together as one bundle. And because at one bundle, how do we now mitigate against the security threats? And a lot of AI power solutions are out there. That's what we're going to look next. What are the AI power? What are the automation that comes with it? Then we're going to look at implementation that comes with it. So we start with diving into history. Uh, Generally, the base of AI is usually data, and the father of data, especially what we see currently as the shifts and the oil of change that has ever come in terms of comparison with change all over the world, is the ability that we have comprehensive data across uh, the structured one that we are known, that's very known in terms of those that have column and row, and the unstructured one, which is what is basically 80% of the data we have out there. And we have the semi-structure, which comes from our application software that we have out there. So generally, the basic foundation started in 1640 when there was a particular crisis in England, and that crisis resulted in trying to deduce the number of death rates within the society at that epidemic situation. They need what we call number, which, if you are from statistic background, majorly is numbers that count for a particular uh, things or any other things, that whether it's disease, whether it's object. And the person that started this public health statistics was John Grant. So he laid the foundation that built the AI and also started building other things around this. But however, when it comes to looking at the base of security, I can say the father of cybersecurity is Dr. Eugene Spafford, now, which started building technology policies in 1980 and 1960. Here, this was the first time there was a comprehensive um, model that could extensively contribute and collaborate or collapse two things together: intuition, intrusion detection rather, system, and also with policy. So security now is not is void of just an attempt of building a particular thing. It's more of a way by which we build things that are compliant with compliance principle. So saying that, let's look the balance here we're seeing all over the world is that there is now the issue of tools that we have in with IT, generally tools that make our life more modern. And one of those tools is AI. And whether we like it or not, AI has come to stay. And having that, what we can see from the that deduction is that with AI embedded in most of our system, we need to have insight about what kind of threat will come in. And that shows us that technology now is balanced by people experience. That means you cannot remove people from technology. Having that in mind, it tells us now that even when we look at all these tools, solutions all around us, we cannot remove the fact that all these requirements are centered on people, me and you, that use this technology, that work with this technology, that utilize this technology, irrespective of our field, whether you are in the manufacturing industry, you are in the consulting environment, you are an SMB, a startup, and a mass production industry. All these are generally now basically build on what we want. So technology evolvement, it's not void of people. And that's why we must take perfect and very, very, we must look inwardly and look at generally how this play out. Because if people is involved, then security also must be considered. And generally, the bat of where we are today in terms of the strive of AI started way back with the convergence, which I call the accelerators. And there are three major accelerators that combine to make this happen. One of them is the cloud technology. And we know, obviously, with the cloud technology, access to computing and computing power, ability to have access to this computer anywhere in the world, like I'm speaking to you from Africa now, and we are connected to an application that is basically a cloud-based application that can stream what I'm doing, and you can see it over there wherever you are. Generally, the cloud technology makes computing power more powerful, more easy, more available, and more scalable. And that makes it very easy to deploy application, to build infrastructure, to things that require huge investment in the past has made simplified. All you need to just pay as you go. And having that in mind, we also need now to look at the combination of the computing power we have today and the data we have outside there. As I mentioned, the veracity of data and the velocity of data has increased over time, especially with the emergence of bringing what we call unstructured data that can be available through context of binary information, picture, PDF, and all these combined together make data the oil of today. Now, can you imagine when you have cloud, availability of computing power, availability of access to any technology anywhere, and also combining it with data? What it will come out from the output of this is proper information. And those information comes with intelligence. And that intelligence is what brings us to today's consideration to look at how that intelligence can generally. So there is this unification that comes with a relationship with AI and data. So even when we are looking at security, we need data. We must be able to infuse data into our provision. So generally, sorry, something. Um, we are seeing some narrative over here, and those narrative is compelling, whether we like it or not. We know evolution tells us that humans started from the ape. At least if you go to biology or humanity, there is a strive that started all from ape, my evolutionizing into human. But we're actually saying something very peculiar now, which is the age AI, an ability that comprehensively change the way we look at things. Sorry, I don't know why this is keeping. Um, sorry for that. The PowerPoint just skipping. So that shows us that whether we like it or not, we are at the verge of a landscape change. And before we can have that rationalized, we must understand that technology is balanced by two that we have. However, the one that dictates everything is the people, what we want, the changes we want, how we want it. Now we're in the cloud first environment where we have access to data anywhere. The landscape of security also has changed with that. That means, sorry, that means comprehensively, what that says is that whatever we are doing now, we are walking into several security threats. One of those threats from statistics is phishing. Phishing has been a common threat over time, and over the years, it has attracted over 300% since 2022, where targeted people are usually company large scale attackers as has been done on several critical infrastructure, especially when it comes to the productive solution like M365. We have seen a lot of it, and in combination with ransomware, which came up some few years back. Now, other things we are seeing now is that because that threat is now real for us, it's no more yes a miniature threat that we have because of our small infrastructure, because we have expanded ourselves and we have access to our technology, our application anywhere, any place, and that makes us more vulnerable. When my data is flying from Nigeria, I can get to US, it can get to Canada, and that same data might contain information that's sensitive. How do I prevent it? Where anybody can send email to me and try to perp me up to get into my infrastructure. All these threats require what we call compliance. Because technology security is no more about a box that you have, a firewall that you can restrict within your infrastructure, like local area infrastructure. It has gone before that, beyond that, and we are seeing things that come even while our data move and transit from one point to the other. We need to now begin to have policies that can help guide us. One of the change in this landscape is policy coming in. Different policy, GDPR, CCPA, HIPPA for health sector, and every violation of this has constitute what we call monetary charges, over 4.5 million from the statistic I had there. So the fence generally have shifted from traditionally having it based on a firewall, small policies that we run, signature on our security provider that we have online. We need to now shift from what we know as just securing our environment and put ourselves no trust nobody. Make sure you verify everything, including the infrastructure. So having that potential in mind, it takes us to look at the engagement that is coming over the years. Sophisticated cyber threat has increased. Now we gradually seeing traditional security challenging, facing modern threats that they cannot comprehend it over time. And we also see a lot of things coming in also in terms of proactivity when it comes to intelligence, because we have huge data now, even security data, that we can easily mine and get information from. And that means that at this point, we need to start looking ahead. And we must combine on this with compliance and regulation, because it's just like if the government make policy and there is no police, there's no custom at our borders or our airports, what will happen? Despite the fact there are laws, those laws will not be what? Enforced. So regulation and compliance raise and reduce risk to almost 50%. So with that, we come to where we are trying to look at how do we now use AI to power security. And let's look at it from the window of M365. So how is AI being powered by M365? As welcome this various change that is coming over the years, we start convening our mind, because artificial intelligence is more like a computer program that is mimicking what human can do. And one aspect that is transformative that is coming here is ability to sit on our security operation and ensure it explore every avenue that each malicious act can be curtailed. So M365, because of the border and because of huge number of interested users all over the world, because one of the um, ISUs, or in terms of number, I don't want to say greatest, ISUs in terms of productive solution is M365, which was called Office, migrates to M365, Office 365, and the rest. And that's called for high alerts in every form because of digital transformation. And that tells us that we must have things that we can enhance in order to make this threat detectable before it acts. So that shows us that with M365, a lot of build up has been put there. One of them is instant analysis. That means ability to scan millions of information across all the M365 users and significant getting signals across all each of the endpoints, devices being used, identity that comes with it, the applications that are being used. And each of them should have what we call an ability to have a remedy to curtail anomalies and ensure that this can be done in a very short time. Now, pattern also recognition is part of what is required in this our age, especially when we are talking about having infrastructure that's accessible, available to people all over the world. And as I said earlier, M365 is one of the productive applications that's used globally. Then we must be able to have a way by which we can understand and recognize pattern of threats. And that means using things like machine learning. What is machine learning? Machine learning is what AI sit on. AI is the algorithm, is the program that runs on machine learning, that works on data, that will be able to give inference, that can give information for the model to be able to detect. So with that, you must be able to look at how global threat is happening, what is happening in US, what's happening in Russia, how can this be mitigated when it comes to our infrastructure. Then a very, very important thing that we need to know that AI can give us when it sits on M365 is ability to contain rapid response to information that comes in, signal that come from any of these threats to get to the users before it's been acted on. And that brings us to several tools we have on M365. One of them is Microsoft Defender, the extender, which basically is very good when it comes to advanced threat analysis. Uh, now, now, now it brings us also up to a level where we have a way by which we stimulate what can be the likely threat. So gone are those days that we are reactive. We allow the threat to come in. At this point, we are looking at a way that I can stimulate a way that people can see what threat look like, how threat can come in, how they can get into our system. And all these are driven by these tools. So another tool that we're going to look at, which my demo will sit on if I still have a couple of time, is to look at Microsoft Purview. Now, Microsoft Purview sits on compliance, risk analysis, understanding how you want to use your data, classifying those data into important data, non-important data, sensitive data, and ability to look at not just about the data that is moving and the compliance that you have automated, but also to build around what we call people factor. I mentioned earlier that technology is built on people. Despite all the tools we are seeing around, what makes it important to us, to our activity, is the usage, the adoption by people, the onboarding to this solution. And because it's very critical, then we must start looking out of the box. How do I look at securing internally? There might be a risk. One of the risks is me. I'm in a company, I get angry with what's happening in the company. I can attack the environment, I can attack the institution. So, inside threat is part of what Pavio, one of the major area of Pavio. Then Microsoft has also tried to build what we call um, the essence of now. That is using what we call the the modern transformer model, which is popularly known as GPT. If you are consistent, you know ChatGPT. And for Microsoft, its own model is called Copilot. Now, with Copilot, it's now easy to use algorithms and solutions that are built on AI to be able to analyze in terms of call, call for, query, certain things that are in human language that can easily be related to you, despite the fact the program that's attacking you are in a program form that you might not understand. Then you can easily investigate this by automation. Your investigation can span to several triggers, getting those signals and ensuring that those signals across most of your platform and combining them into one guided response that can make you easily understand it. So with that, what it tells us now is that um, we cannot go without understanding the identity that brings in into our infrastructure. Our identity needs to be guided. Our identity needs to be protected. And that brings us to use of one major solution that Microsoft over the time that's evolutionalized into several shape. Now the shape we have now is called Microsoft Entra ID. It started with domain Active Directory. It moves to Azure Active Directory. Is now on Microsoft Entra ID, which generally is like the doorway at which anybody can enter an infrastructure through an identity or through the application and or through a particular infrastructure. So each of them are risk factor. The Microsoft Entra ID can help you to harvest those information, detect it, and you can now begin to create conditions, especially when you understand the pattern. Like you first of all look at the risks, you can detect it by having what we call risk factor. After evaluating through AI, several risks you can have, it condition it for you. Then after conditioning, it can now restrict certain access to it by making it, because traditionally it was said 85% of every attack that we have seen on IT has always been through. It has always been through password. And because of that, things started replacing it. One of the things that replace it is the use of things like biometrics. Biometrics and ability to have credential checked after using several factor called multi-factor authentication. And that continuous verification ensure that our infrastructure are built properly. So in essence, what we are saying here, sorry, it has shifted again. Oh, sorry, this is not my slide. Okay, sorry for that. So what we are seeing in essence is that a lot of things has to be guided and protected, especially from the front door. And that's why Microsoft Entra ID can do justice to that. So we quickly look at automation. Now, I mentioned security is no more as a physical box. It's more like trying to print policies. And to do that, Microsoft M365, what we have, compliance automation capability, where the M365 works with what we call a regulatory solution that we have from our government or from any form, and are basically built to be able to what? Simplify compliance, determine the pattern, use a language that we can hear through AI called natural language process to interpret the complexity of security, then has what we call continuous monitoring and ensure that it can tell you what can happen by predicting it. So in essence, what we are saying now, the automated data classification, especially when it comes to the movement and transit of your data, can also, through the compliance automation, can be done in a way that we can discover whatever sensitive information we have on our environment, we can label it, and we can ensure that we protect it against any malicious act. And that shows us that even when we have the record of our data detailed in a storage, or any form of story, whether to the cloud or to our own on-prem environment, we can classify it and capture it into different strengths. That means from capturing, automating the document, injecting it into multiple source and bringing it from different database, classifying it into different document type, and ensuring there's a life cycle that each of these data comes with, and ensuring that it easily automated through a compliance record to ensure that appropriate time is given to when it can expire. So compliance also with AI on M365 also help us to look at what we call risk. Now, what is a risk? Risk is a potential threat that can come. How do I measure it? Now, measuring risk, we must have a system, and M365 built with AI has a system that can score you, especially when you look at all your infrastructure, all from the Entra ID to the application you are using to your users. It can comprehensively create what we call the risk across each of these and score you, and said, for you to be able to use your infrastructure through M365, you are scoring certain percentage. Sometimes it can be 10, 50, 100, 80, and it will also guide you with a link on where you can get on how you can avoid such threats. Now, one very important thing that compliance app that is built on M365 can do is to help you to identify complex threats. And each of those can easily be identified even before it attacks you. the potential threats. It can control it by creating what we call a graphical map that can tell you where the threat is coming from, how you imagine to your system, what you can do, and how you can secure your system. And finally, the system are built on continuous monitoring, continuous assessment, so that at any time, AI with M365 can give you a guarantee. Now, what can all this I mentioned, what can it do for you? One, because of the risk factor, um, there are some other things that are put in M365 that can guide you and protect you. One of them is ability to send you what we call information, which is usually called alerts. Now, each of those alerts is a warning of probably a potential violation that happened within your system or your tenant. Then consistently, it keeps eliminating what we call human inconsistency because we are now running it on automation system. Three, it also gives you what we call a monitoring information through graph and through some detailed information that gives you what a comprehensive overlook of your system and how to monitor your system. And finally, it helps you to update yourself, especially on every law, rules from country to country, and how you can guide yourself on how to mitigate against violating such policies. So, all this invariably, what does it gives us? One, it gives us what we call ability to have time. Now, time is money anywhere in the world. I use your time determine how far you can go. And they say a respecter of time eventually is a creator of opportunity. So at that point, then we must know that when you have your time saved, when AI on M365 can help you to save, it can reduce your manual injection. It can also reduce cost for you over 60%, and it can also increase what we call your accuracy to 95%. And that means that I can cover more with lesser time. So it can give you a 3 times coverage of what you currently monitor it on your scope. So facing all this now brings us to getting information. How do we get this information? Through M365. There is an improved audit readiness system using AI on M365, where you can give you what we call compliance detailing in terms of documentation. It can give you historical information, especially when it comes to compliance activity. It can also give you instant reports that you need, especially through what we call graphical dashboard. And it can ensure that it can give you information that comes from feedback when it comes to testing those of your security environment and ensuring that validation is done to control what you have. So, how do we now go about this? First of all, M365 are built what we call the best practice in terms of ensuring that best practice in terms of regulation, compliance across region, across country, and they are aligned with the existing security framework, which they are built on M365. Two, um, they ensure that as they are bringing AI into the security uh, posture, they ensure that critical error and critical issue are focused on. And one of those issues is to ensure that there is governance protocol and that establish a robust kind of reduction, because when you are proactive, you reduce risk. Then human element is also looked at as at an angle, because we must look at inside issue. We must look at must be vigilance to understand how to ensure that our system constantly see what our infrastructure look like, what can be done, especially as I mentioned earlier, Microsoft 365, Office Suite, and the likes from historical background is one of the most used tool all over the world. And because of that, we must start checking in on what is happening in there. And we cannot do it with a manual method. So AI with M365 built on it can help us to give us that continuous involvement. So what What am I saying in essence for the past few minutes is that the future of AI and security and compliance boil down with leveraging AI to build you what we call proper intelligence across your threat management and ensure there's regulation pushing it. Now, with AI threat detection, you can tell you patterns, predict to you what can happen, and ensure it sees anomaly before it attacks you. That means that we have now a response system, which is built on AI, on M365, where threat can be detected, risk can be assigned, containment, especially when it goes beyond the certain risk, can be looked at, and remediation, which is just going to the doctor, can be set in place. Now, with generative AI, we can also do things like scenario simulation, ensuring that we can have control what we want, how we want it, and also reports is very key. Having information documented, which is required for regulation, can be gotten from there, and every vulnerability can be forecasted. Now, as we begin to wind down, we now begin to look at how this can be done. AI can help us to enhance automation revolution, continuous monitoring, which is not easy with our regular traditional system. But we need AI that can help you to constantly get those feedback. We need AI to help us to look at what are the gaps when it comes when you detect what is real and what is unreal, what is artificial, what is prepared into your system, and how you can take it off. And how can your system adapt to anything, any threat, and easily have what we call a response and a remediation at the same time. And finally, how do I get documentation of what is happening and how to prevent this death? So another angle, which is human in nature, is the ethic. That when we start looking at M365, that we must not shy away from. One of them is the transparency of every model we are going to use, especially when it comes to security. It must be explainable because AI generally must work within a responsible AI framework. And each of those framework must be able to explain what the AI is doing. It must be transparent. Then it must be able to be fair to every user that use those infrastructure. That means even on the security layer, you must be able to get your security level, not to remove bias mitigation, any bias that can come in. And privacy is now very, very important. Over the years, we have seen great complaints that are leveraged with fine because they violated privacy rule. PII is very, very important, and we must also make sure that our system is balanced, especially from the ethical point of view. And that's also is challenging for security because sometimes data protection, if you are not, and that's why M365 with AI combined, it has so many things that are being built into the compliance environment that can help to reduce this kind of occurrence. Human oversight, sometimes because we are human, I know once it's about 9 p.m. African time, Lagos, I have to go to bed. And that means I'm sleeping. That I cannot stay 24/7. But AI can actually stay up and still continue to be guided by the thing I do. So generally maintaining control is also very important. And that makes human oversight can be mitigated by using this solution. So for me, how do you deploy this in your M365 environment? First of all, you must have proper assessment of what you have, especially when you must know your current posture and what are you also, apart from knowing your post of security in security wise, you must know whether your system is also AI ready, because AI is not just about using public facing solution. When you come to your own internal productive solution, you need custom environment like Copilot that are built for all your system, your preview that are confined to your tenant, and all these things require an assessment. And the first thing you need to do is to assess yourself. Is my posture proper? Is it regulated? Is it giving me the best score? Then if you do that, then you now have to look at your AI readiness. And strategically, readiness cut across stakeholders from the top to the bottom. Then after that, you now begin to look at what we call a demo. We call it a pilot deployment. You must now start looking at ways by which you can test your your AI tool against your security environment, and that also help you to look at how you can control your environment, what is needed, what kind of. It's not all tools can be. It depends on your environment. Each environment are unique to his own company and to his own operation. So you must test it to control it. Then after that, you must now start integrating it into your core infrastructure, security infrastructure. Then after you have done the pilot, you have integrated it and it's stable over time, then you can now do what we call expansion. You scale it out. And if have several branches across the world, you can now start using it across several of your sites or country or wherever your infrastructure is. And because the AI system constantly assess you, constantly monitor you, constantly get audit about what's happening to you. So there might be time to time it calls for optimization. That means it wants to improve your system. You must start looking at how to do that. So the landscape I see with M365 and AI is that once you implement and you allow AI with on your M365, you be more proactive, especially when it comes to defense. Now, there is more a partnership now, as I mentioned, people and tools. Then you must be able to aggregate this together, and that builds more intelligent for you and more human ability to understand what's happening. And from the foundation of Microsoft security infrastructure is built on zero trust. That means an enforcer can be AI for you at that point, where it look at ways by which you continue authentication, enforcing. Now MFA now is not just a choice for everybody; is a need from the infrastructure level, and it's constantly verify you, and that can also help you. Now with AI, you can also measure yourself to see whether you have a return on your investment that you have done over time. So we come to the demo section, and under the demo section, we're going to look at um, several things I coin out here. One of them is to look at incidents when it comes to AI transformation. Now, we must start to rethink. Timing is one major thing that is very crucial. Timing. How do we mitigate against issue? And for people that practice forensics, especially when it comes to M365, it's like reducing your hours into seconds. And that can be very effective for you. And that's where the rethink comes in. How do I do that? Two, uh, I must be able to accelerate my investigation. Traditionally, in the past, when there's an issue, you have to get the log file on M365, you upload it on your Microsoft Defense and the likes. And traditionally, you now look at what happened and how those actions take place and start looking at the way to mitigate it. But the action we have here with accelerated AI powered system like Copilot, it gives you a simplified summary that cover client terms like what action you need to do, what are the details that have been flagged over the compliance issue that you have over time, the device that you are using, are they actually managed by you or something that someone brings into your infrastructure, or what are the actionable things you need to do? And that is one thing that AI setup is going to. And finally, the rethink now is that with AI involved in M365, we are just gently, gradually speeding up, reducing time, and paraventure shifting paradigms from what we call incident to proactiveness. And that means AI will generate what we call summary of what has happened, how it has happened. So I don't know how long I have, but I will just launch one of the environment, and I will. I don't know. It just went off again. Okay, I'll bring it back. Let me just bring my infrastructure up. Now, this is my office. Coming. Let me stop sharing. I don't know. It's just everything I have here.
So, Oluwashi, are you going to have a demo?
Yes, I'm just working on it. It's just stalling.
Okay.
Yes.
How long do you think it will take?
In the next few minutes, I'll just show because of time. I don't know how many minutes I have, and if I need to take some, I'll just show some of the activity that I have on my M265.
Okay.
Uh,
If you can make it
yeah.
the most possible short, because we have already our speaker in
Oh,
line.
okay, I'm almost done.
Thank
Sorry for
you.
that. Yeah. Okay. Good. Now this is my M265, and you can see from here
I'm
that
sorry to interrupt you. You need to reshare your screen.
yes. Okay. I'll share it now. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Ah,
Thank you.
okay. So you can see from there, this is my compliant, or this is my preview. You can see, for example, if I want to access my current posture is very low, 50 is my training environment I use for training, about 56%. Um, that means that currently, when you look at the demography here, you can see I have almost high risk, and I have just few things because my demo environment is quite uh, so I'll just show you there, and then I can just, because the second speaker is already here. um, so for my solution, I can see the overview. Not good here. You can see I can have this Microsoft preview. From the solution, I can have the improved action I require, the assessment I can make, the regulation, the policy alerts, and the report I can get across each of them. And you can see my score here. And if I go into more detail, you can see each of my overall compliance score. And I can also try to initiate, but we don't have time. The other guy is here, so I need to move. So um, in conclusion, generally, what I can just say, um, I can probably bring out of all this is that we are now at the age where we can actually build our solution, and ensure our solution can easily we start rethinking how to move from manual to automation. And that means we must have a way by which we can have a summary. Now, I could have shown you Copilot on the preview because of time, how it can integrate directly into existing alert system. ensuring that I will do a demo of a Word document that I put some uh, very sensitive information, and I see how it's, although it might take 24 hours before now to be able to see that, and how this can engage with it and ensure criticality. It can detect what is it. It can give me the action. It can tell me in terms of devices, the context with these devices, and it can also improve and tell me what I can do to improve the system. So the the major yardstick here is that the journey begins with us, and until we start using this um, vast tool that we have in MT65 and combined with the AI that's injected in it, we have a better safe haven than we have with traditional way. So I'll conclude by saying thank you for listening to me, and you can just follow me in any of these link. Thank you. And if
Thank
there's
you, my
any
friend.
question, please, yeah,
Let me see if we have any questions.
yeah.
No, I cannot see anyone. So thank you
Okay,
so much for coming in. Quite an interesting session. Of course, I'm going to say that again. We hope to meet you in another event of ours. Have a great one, and thank you for doing us the honor to be here as a speaker.
thank you
Have
very
a
much.
great one, my friend.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.
So, very nice session from Oluwasi. We had a focus on security today, and it's time to switch a little bit our theme with my favorite Dave Rendon. He's been on our channel again, and this is the second year honoring us with his presence. Um, we are going to explore one of the hot topics of today, and we're going to see from an expert, that being Dave, how we can build our agentic system using Microsoft Agent Framework and AZD. So it's a holistic view of how to correctly build such a system. Hello, Dave. How are you?
Hey, Konstantinos, can you hear me?
Yes, of course I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, doing great. Thank you. And thank you for the space and for organizing such a great event. Really appreciate it. So yeah, I'm gonna start sharing my screen really quick. And
Sure.
yeah, just to level set the expectations in here. Thank you everyone for joining us. As Konstantinos mentioned earlier, it's a pleasure to be here with you today, and thank you for taking the time for this quick session. Today, we're going to focus on how you can build this multi-agent system using the Microsoft Agent Framework and the ACD tool, right? By all means, if you have any question after this session, feel free to reach out, all right? So I'm going to try to keep things as simple as possible, right? So we're gonna get hands-on on one of the most exciting areas in AI right now, right? So basically, how you can build and deploy your production-ready multi-agent systems on Azure, right? And I want to give you the big picture first. We're gonna use the Microsoft Foundry platform, which is the basically the AI app and agent factory for you, right? So this platform is going to bring everything together, like models, agent services, knowledge retrieval tools, and governance, right? Um, so think of it as the factory floor where your AI applications and agents are going to get built, tested, and shipped, all right? So we're going to review how you can build this support ticket triage system using the Microsoft Agent Framework along with the Microsoft Foundry platform, right? So the goal is to have 4 agents that are communicating between them where we have a primary orchestrator that delegates then to three other agents, one that classifies the urgency, another agent that assigns the right team, and then another agent that estimates the delivery effort. All right, so we're going to deploy all of these using infrastructure as code using the Azure Developer CLI. So I'm going to share the code with you so that you can, after the session, you can just go grab the code and deploy it on your own. All right. So that said, I guess the first step in here is to walk you through the platform layer, right? So we are going to focus on Microsoft Foundry. As I mentioned earlier, Foundry is basically your AI app and agent factory, right? And through Foundry, we're going to be able to have this unified place, if you will, to design and customize and manage and monitor your AI applications, but also agents at scale, right? It was previously Azure AI Foundry, but Microsoft rebranded the platform to Foundry, right? So the naming reflects the platform's evolution, right? So it began as a place to test models, and then nowadays it's a mature platform to build applications, right? So it's a true AI factory, right? So if we take a look at each of the components that are part of the Foundry platform, we can start with the models in here, right? So this is going to be the foundation that everything else is going to build on, right? So you can access more than 11,000 foundational open reasoning, multimodal, and industry-specific models, right? There's also a model router service, right? That's a unified endpoint with automated routing so that you can automate the process of picking up your model, and model router is going to help you, pick the best or the cheapest model per task, right? You will see that fine tuning is fully supported as well, right? And then the next component, very important here, is gonna be the agent service, right? This is where the platform basically shifts from AI that responds to AI that acts, right, if you will. So the Foundry agent service is gonna deliver these enterprise capabilities, if you will, and it's gonna give you this unified developer experience across the Foundry portal, but also through SDKs, right? So we can simplify orchestration, deployment, and governance for agents, right? Now, this is a key element for our conversation because under the hood, the Microsoft Agent Framework is going to take place in here. The Microsoft Agent Framework is an open source SDK, basically, that unifies the foundations of semantic kernel with the multi-agent orchestration of AutoGen, if you will, right? So you as a developer no longer need to choose between experimentation and production, if you will, right? So we're going to use the Microsoft Agent Framework for our scenario today, right? Now, just to mention it here, the Foundry Agent Service also offers hosted agents, right? It can also you can also leverage the multi-agent workflows, built-in memory capabilities, right? So you can directly deploy your agents, and you can integrate with Microsoft 365 and Agent 365, right? The next component in here is going to be the IQ. This is kind of the knowledge layer or the retrieval augmented generation engine, if you will. This was recently renamed as well. So think of this component as the next generation retrieval augmented generation layer, right? So uh, basically, this is going to be the place for all the knowledge base for your AI applications or agents, right? It also handles permissions natively, right? And you can ground your applications and agents on your data, right? You can connect agents to multiple sources through a single entry point, but you can also activate this contextual agentic rush engine, if you will, with specific built-in user access permissions, right? Another very important component is going to be tools in here, right? Foundry tools are the former Azure AI services, right? Um, these are tools for agents, right? So this includes like pre-built AI capabilities like content understanding, language translator, and speech, right? But also private tools that can connect directly to, enterprise systems, right? Um, think of tools as the entry point for connecting and for managing your agentic integrations. So for example, tools like MCP servers, Azure AI Search, Fabric, SharePoint, other kind of endpoints, right? This is a huge deal, because it means that agents are not just reasoning in isolation. They are going to be connected directly into your systems, right? And then lastly, we have the machine learning component, right? So this is the Azure ML backbone that Foundry inherits, if you will. So this is going to cover the machine learning operations, training pipelines, custom model training, right? So very, very important here. And the base for all this is going to be the control plane layer, right? So this is kind of the operational brain of the entire platform, if you will, right? So the control plane is going to centralize identity, but also these elements like policy, observability, and security signals, and all these capabilities for developers in a single portal, right? Um, so it's gonna handle like all these components under the hood, right? And then at the very bottom, we're gonna be able to integrate with other Azure components for security, compliance, and governance, right? So that said, let's take a look at the end-to-end agentic AI lifecycle. And this is going to be very important because basically this is going to help us, better understand our scenario, right? So that said, just to give you the big picture in here, the idea of this scenario, our multi-agent system, is not to have a single line, but to have kind of a loop, if you will, right? This is gonna focus on, or the place where your agent comes to life, right? So stage one is gonna be build, right? So again, this is where your agent comes to life, right? So agents that you create using the Microsoft Foundry platform are not going to be like monoliths, if you will. Think of an agent as a composable unit, if you will, right? So that means that each agent might have a specific role and is going to be connected to one model, access to tools, right? And ideally, you need or you should deploy this agent uh, within a secure and observable and governable runtime, right? So basically, in this phase during build, uh, you are making three fundamental decisions, right? So you need to decide which model is going to power the agent, what instructions define its behavior, and then which tools the agent should be able to call, right? So those tools might be knowledge retrieval through Azure AI Search. It can be actions through Azure Logic Apps or enterprise integrations through MCP connectors, for example, right? Um, Now, the second stage is going to be deploy, right? And this is probably the phase or the stage where most AI projects historically fall, right? Um, and Foundry is going to help you to minimize that friction, right? um, Basically, through hosted agents in the Foundry agent service, you can deploy your agents, right? And that you build using the Microsoft Agent Framework or LangGraph, for example, or other open source frameworks, right? And you can deploy this directly into a fully managed runtime, right? Um, so there are different deployment strategies, right? It's gonna come down to your specific use case. And then once the agent is live, we can shift into the operations mode, right? That's stage number 3. And this is where the 3 horizontal layers, meaning the govern, evaluate, and monitor, do the heavy lifting across all the 3 stages, right? Basically, in here is where we can, be on top of our deployment, right? So to keep the session as practical as possible, we will focus on the following, right? So this is our demo scenario, right? We're gonna build and deploy a production-ready multi-agent solution on Azure, right? So we're gonna leverage the Microsoft Agent Framework and Microsoft Foundry resources. So we will, the goal is to create this ticket triage system with multiple agents, right? We're gonna have 4 agents. The primary agent is going to be kind of the orchestrator, if you will, and that delegates the operation to 3 other agents, 3 specialists, if you will. So one is going to be the priority, then the team assignment, and then the effort estimation. All right. So what's the goal in here? The scenario again is to provide a sample of something that every engineering organization deals with, right? So this ticket triage system, right? So when a support or an engineering ticket comes in, say, for example, we have a VPN outage affecting the finance team, someone needs to go and figure out, how urgent is this, right? So who owns it? How long will it take to fix or to resolve, right? And, traditionally, this is a manual process and very slow. So this demonstration is going to automate entirely this scenario entirely, right? And we're going to use these specialized AI agents, right? Now you can grab the code from here, right? And we're going to use the ACD to deploy this scenario, right? So that said, let me just explain you the agents in here, right? So first of all, we're gonna have a priority agent, right? the priority agent is gonna basically classify the urgency, whether if a ticket it's high, medium, or low priority, right? So basically, this specialist is gonna take the raw ticket and then outputs the severity classification, if you will, right? Now, remember that agents are composable units, so each agent has a specific role, right? So this is going to be the role of this agent. Then we have the team agent. This is going to suggest the owning team, right? So once the priority is established, then the team agent is going to, determine who owns the problem. Um, you know, um, uh, we can, for example, get the VPN tickets routed to the infra team, for example, right? Uh, Again, this is going to depend on the ticket information. Then we have the effort agent. The effort agent basically is the one that is going to estimate the delivery effort with supporting rationale, right? So this can be probably the most interesting specialist, if you will, because it doesn't just say like this is a medium effort, but it should provide the reasoning behind, right? So, for example, for the VPN outage, right, um, it can provide the effort justification in here, right? So, this agent can give engineers and potentially managers, something they can actually act on, not just a number, right? And then we have the triage system agent, right? So basically, this orchestrates the specialist to produce a ticket summary, right, if you will. So that's going to be the scenario that we are going to deploy, right? So again, you can grab the code from here, right? And let me just show you the details of this, right? So let's go to VS Code. And okay, so let's take a look at the details in here. All right, so just to level set the expectations in here, I provisioned this earlier on just to ensure that we had enough time in here. So let me just zoom it a little bit in here, right? All right, now let's take a look at this. All right. Okay. So I hope this is visible for you. Let me just confirm in here. All right. Konstantinos, could you please let me know if you can see the screen fairly clear?
I can see the VS Code screen, but if you can make it a little bit larger, would be
All
much
right.
better.
Well done. Thank you. Okay, let's do this. I guess that's better. Yep. Probably zoom in a little bit more in here. All right. Okay, here we are. So let me just show you the details, right? So again, you can grab the code from the GitHub repo that I shared earlier. You have all the code and components in there, right? Basically, what we are doing is to deploy these models on top of AI Foundry or Microsoft Foundry, right? And then we deploy all this on top of containers, right? So a prerequisite is to, as you can see here, have Docker installed. And then the ACD tool as well, right? So those are the prerequisites in there. Now, the next step is to deploy this. So basically just execute ACD up right? And that's gonna retrieve all the code, and basically we build and deploy the models on a Microsoft Foundry, and then we build the container images with the agents, right? And that's what happens in here, right? We are also provisioning all the Azure resources needed, right? And then in here, I'm testing the agents, right? So basically, this is our project endpoint, and I'm going to show you this in a few moments. And this is the model, right? So you can always switch the model if you prefer to. After that, then we are going to do a quick test. We are using the following script that basically is going to help us test all the agents, I mean the 4 agents, right? And the goal here is to show this in practice. So we have this ticket, the VPN outage that is affecting the finance team, right? So basically, we're gonna test this, and we are gonna load the environment values, right, from our current deployment, right? And then this is the workflow, right? So this is the aggregated triage result. So we have the priority critical, right? So in the notes, we have that the VPN outage is impacting the finance team, right? So likely handles sensitive time critical operations like payroll, transactions, and so on, right? Then we have the participant outputs, right? So as you can see, this is kind of the impact, if you will, right? Now, very important, as you see here, we have the first agent, which is the team router. We have another agent, which is the effort estimator, and we have the triage aggregator, right? Now, that means that our agents are up and running, right? And we have the nodes for each agent, right? So you have, for example, the effort estimator, effort, this is a medium, right? And it says, okay, so resolving a VPN outage may require diagnosing networking configurations, right? So that means that the agent is not only giving you like a number or priority, but is giving you a potential root cause of the issue, right? Which again, any engineer or manager can act on this information, right? And then we have the triage aggregator, right? And it's providing kind of the summary of the all the previous agents. So it's giving you the priority critical, the team assigned, the effort, which is medium, and then the summary, right? So as you can see, this is a very effective way to potentially automate the process of handling a support ticket, finding a potential root cause, and then acting on the potential issue in here, right? So again, this is just one of the samples that we have in here. You can also use the graphical interface through the Microsoft Foundry portal to deploy your agents, all right? In this case, we are using the Microsoft Agent Framework, but again, there are other options, alternatives that you can use, right? And to show you the code, let me bring up the environment here, right? So again, this is on the GitHub repo that I shared with you earlier. So I'm gonna share this with you. Okay, so here's the repo, right? You have all the details, the description. Again, we have these 4 agents that we reviewed in VS Code. We have the architecture overview so that you can better understand the project in here, right? And the steps to deploy your own multi-agent system. So again, prerequisites in here, you just need the, of course, the Azure subscription, and then Foundry with the GPT-4o model, the Azure Developer CLI, Python, and Docker, right? That's pretty much it. Then you can deploy with ACD up, right? You bootstrap the agents, and then if you want to test all the agents at once, you can use this example. And you can probably, tailor the tickets depending on your use case, right? And yeah, give it a try, right? Okay, so from here, you can get started, right? Now, to access AI Foundry or Microsoft Foundry, you can go to ai.azure.com, and this is the place where you are gonna go and deploy your GPT-4o model. Now, for this specific scenario, we are using infrastructure as code with bicep files to deploy all the components. So you no longer need to go to the portal and do any manual deployments. It all gets deployed through these infrastructure as code files available in the repo. All right. So I hope this is insightful for you on how you can get started building your multi-agent system. Again, this is the code available, right? So you can grab it from there and deploy it at your own pace, right? And yeah, again, just to um, concluding here, this is probably one of the most common scenarios on how you can, get started with building multi-agent systems. But the Foundry platform is gonna give you all the tools that you need to build these solutions, right? You can explore like all the additional components that I explained earlier, right? So it's just a good place to get started with, right? And again, I want to thank you all for spending these minutes with me. And a special thanks to you, Constantinos, for organizing such a great event. And thank you for all your support for making this possible. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dave. Quite a resourceful session. Thank you for being here with us today. I hope you the best, and maybe we'll meet again in another event. Have a great one, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you. Take care.
Take care. So that was Dave. Uh, as usual, quite a resourceful session. You can find Dave's content on GitHub, and you can replicate the solutions that you will find there, as well as this one that we just saw. Of course, agentic AI is taking over, as you know. And what are the lessons learned so far in our Azure AI Connect 2026? The lessons learned are security is top. We cannot talk about AI adoption and bringing AI into our business without um, making security a top priority. And next is that AI is not here to replace us. AI is here to help us. It's a tool. It is a process, an engine, if you may, that can help us make our lives better and easier through our businesses in our daily life. There are some aspects in life that AI should not be part of it. For example, when we speak about talent, when we speak about original creativity, these things do not have a place for AI, right? And then, of course, not AI is for everything. You may find a solution in an issue or on a project of yours without the need of AI. Doesn't mean that a complex solution needs definitely AI to be solved or to be better. Okay, explore other solutions. And finally, one other lesson learned I will add is the cost implications. Yeah, it is exciting, it is amazing, it is fast and can do amazing things in a very short period of time, but there are cost implications that come with it. Make sure you make your homework before you proceed with AI and try to experiment first so you can understand how it works, what is the token consumption, and what is prompt engineering, and some of the very basic terms and terminology that will make you a better AI expert or an AI specialist or even an AI user if you're looking for very basic um, interactions. So while we will wait for the last speaker for tonight, I'm going to play our video as usual, and I hope that we won't have another miss for today. Day 2, Azure AI Connect. Thank you everyone for being here today. I understand that in comparison with last year, we have seen more mature speakers, more, how can I say, more a step back. I'm noticing that our speakers are not the people that will say, yes, let's go and make AI or AI first and everything. No, I'm, I'm, I'm observing our speakers talking about, hey, take a step back, uh, make sure that you understand what AI does, make sure that you secure your organization, make sure that you use it when it is appropriate to be used and not for everything. And this is something that I really like and to see from our speakers this year. And of course, to our audience, wherever uh, you are watching live or you're going to watch this on a recording, thank you so much for supporting our channels, Global AI Athens and Azure Innovators Hub. I'm the owner of these both communities, and I'm really and truly honored to have such amazing members that support our channels. So thank you, everyone. We have another 17 minutes before our next session, unless Manai comes up. So allow me to play our video and see you in a bit.
Join us for Azure AI Connect, happening virtually from March 2 to March 6, 2026. Join us for Azure AI Connect, happening virtually from March 2 to March 6, 2026. Join us for Azure AI Connect, happening virtually from March 2 to March 6, 2026.
Well, I think that's a wrap for today. I cannot find our next speaker, Manai, and I don't want to take your time by just and simply waiting since it was the last session for today. I think it's safe to say that it's time to say good night. Good night from my time zone. I don't know if Manai had an issue or whatever. I hope he's just fine. And these are minor, inconveniences in our life. I wish we had Manai, of course. He had a very interesting session. The session was about empowering Copilot with explainable AI, enhancing transparency and trust. Quite important. And as you have seen, we are not very strict on selecting sessions about Azure. This year, I just wanted to allow people to express themselves since we are over the rolling time where AI has been really integrated into our lives and we have all touched it one way or another. So I would like to hear from our speakers from different backgrounds, different expertises, and different technologies, of course. That's why this year we're not strict about AI and Azure. We are a little bit more expanding into Microsoft ecosystem and other technologies here and there. At the end of the day, everything is connected to Azure or most of it. And maybe I can create a session for us if I will recommunicate with our speakers. So if we have someone that's not sure about delivering, I will just remove them and maybe I take over to explain how infrastructure of AI delivers, how this thing works as close as we can get to the final stages of computing power, memory, CPUs, how this thing works, how we are able to, utilize this immense software power, but with the cost that it comes, and that is the hardware cost and the hardware power that, makes the models so efficient. So maybe we can do this, but I need to recommunicate with our speakers and see if there is an empty space for us. I'm sorry for our two misses today. I didn't have any communication from the speakers, so that's all I could do. I try to find them around in social media. I, of course, sent them emails. Didn't get a response back. But, hey, things happen. No problem at all. Uh, I would say good night, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining or watching the recordings. Azure AI Connect Day 2 is a wrap, and we're moving for tomorrow, Day 3, same time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern European time. Uh, Take care, everyone, and thank you. Bye bye.
Join us for Azure AI Connect, happening virtually from March 2 to March 6, 2026.